You ever wonder why we all stopped using something that wasn't broken? DSLRs just vanished overnight. They were replaced by sleeker, mirrorless cameras, and now everywhere you look, it's mirrorless this, mirrorless that. But there's one question that nobody's really asking. If mirrorless cameras were so advanced, why do they feel more fragile? Because the more you use both, the clearer it becomes that DSLRs weren't just bigger, they were tougher, more reliable, and less prone to overheating, bugs, or just battery drain. And yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a reason for that. So today, we're going to unpack the real differences between DSLR and mirrorless cameras, not just in specs, but more so in trust, because this isn't just about gear, it's about how we choose tools and what those choices say about how we work as creatives. So let's get into it. This is Static and welcome back to Static Archives. Today we're discussing why DSLR cameras are actually built tougher than mirrorless. Alright, so no one is denying that mirrorless has major advantages before everybody starts to come at me in the comment section. The tech is modern, you get electric viewfinders, faster autofocus, smaller bodies, and more video features, all packed into lighter gear. The marketing hit hard. It was like, why carry a brick when you can have this sleek little machine that sees in the dark, tracks eyes like it's reading your mind, and so much more. Because it made sense. Smaller, faster, cleaner. You think this is just the future, except when you spend real time with both systems, something really starts to show and it might not be exactly what you want. Mirrorless might be more advanced, but DSLRs are much more dependable, and that matters a lot more than people think. So I've been discussing this with a lot of my photographer friends and just people that I know who have been in the world of photography for many decades. I'm still pretty young, but a lot of the older guys have a lot more to say about this than me, and we kind of have similar opinions, so let's get into it. So DSLRs can really take a beating. They're built with fewer fragile electronics, they don't overheat easily, if not ever, and they just hold up. They're a good camera to really take you over many years or many decades. Mirrorless cameras, not saying that it's not always the case, but it isn't. They're packed with heat-sensitive internals, EVFs, and sensors that don't love direct sunlight, smaller batteries, more software-dependent functions, and in real-world use, weddings, events, long travel days, extreme environments, those differences really do start to become problematic. Not always, but in enough to where it raises a bigger question. Are we building tools to last or to be replaced? So before we go further into this, just a quick break. So first I want to know if anybody else has realized this too. So let me know in the comment section down below, and also include if you are team mirrorless or DSLR. Love to know what you guys shoot on, so also feel free to add the camera and whatever it is that you like to shoot. And if you want to go deeper and support this channel, then become a member of my Patreon. You'll get a special shout out in the video and some more extra stuff. So check that out in the link in bio down below. But let's get back into the video. So here's what most people don't realize. DSLRs come from an era where cameras were expected to last for a decade or more easily. Manufacturers essentially overbuilt them, like magnesium alloy frames, mechanical shutters designed to survive hundreds of thousands of actuations, and battery systems that could easily run for days. They weren't chasing small, they were chasing stability. Now, let's look at mirrorless. A lot of them are lighter, yes, but at the cost of thermal control, more plastic, more compact design, and more dependency on processors, menus, and touchscreens. And with that comes a lot more points of potential failure. So you might think, okay, we're in 2025, things change, tech evolves, blah, blah, blah. And you're right about that. I'm not here to disagree with that whatsoever, because I am one who supports tech and innovation to the max. But it has to be good. It can't take a step back just to take a step forward. It has to take maybe one step back and 2 steps forward. So as creatives, we rely on gear not to just perform, but to perform consistently. Not just when it's new, not just when it's cold, not just when you're shooting 10-minute clips, but when it's been 8 hours in the heat or cold shooting stills and video with little to no margin for error. That's where DSLR still really holds its ground, and it doesn't panic when conditions aren't ideal. It doesn't ask you to essentially baby it or cut it any slack. And that's something that mirrorless systems, especially the smaller ones and mid-tier bodies, are still catching up on. It's subtle, but it's important. With a DSLR, you can trust it. With the mirrorless, you can still trust it, but you're often managing that trust. You're managing temps, battery life, sensor exposure, glitchy firmware, overheating timers, adapter compatibility. You start adjusting around the camera instead of your focus purely being on what you're shooting. And that split focus between your creative intent and your gear's limitations is something you start to really feel over time, and it does play a factor in the influence that it puts on the way that you work. There are mirrorless cameras that are built really solidly with pro level durability, but the trend is clear. Smaller, cheaper, more consumer friendly builds are becoming the norm, whether we like it or not, and that shift affects the reliability ceiling of what's on the market. We're in an era where specs sell more than toughness, and the downside is we've gotten used to tools that feel replaceable and not dependable. So I'm saying all that to say, this isn't just about camera builds. It's about what kind of creativity or creative mindset are we buying into. The DSLRs were built with longevity in mind, and mirrorless cameras, on the other hand, are often marketed for what's next. And that reflects a shift in the way we think about the tools we use. We've moved from this will last me years, to this will get me by into the next release. And that thinking really creeps into how we shoot, how we edit, and how we think about content and just being a creator in general. It turns art into output and durability into disposability. And this mindset isn't by accident. The industry thrives on upgrades. A camera that lasts 10 years doesn't drive sales. A camera that needs replacing in 3, well, now we might be a little more profitable. So every year it's new sensors, new mounts, slightly better specs, same body, same sensor. But the pressure to keep up is what's really being sold to you. Here's the thing. Gear that breaks down or needs upgrading constantly doesn't make you a better photographer. It just keeps you distracted, always chasing and never settling into the tools that you really have. So what creators need isn't endless specs. We need trust. We need trust that your camera turns on, it works, and that it keeps working. Trust that it doesn't shut down mid-shoot or have any major malfunctions, and trust that your investment gives back over time, because why would you want to pay $3,000 to $4,000 for the newest camera setup if you're only going to be able to make $8,000 to $10,000 worth of shoots with it? I mean, for the average, smaller person-to-person photographers who's not doing a lot of commercial work, it's going to be a lot more difficult for you to really, turn a profit on your investment on, a multi-$1,000 camera. And this is where DSLRs really differ, because it's not flashy, but because it's really built to be used and to be, worked with. And that's the kind of stability that's really hard to find nowadays, because it's not how they're made anymore. So really the question is, why did a lot of people shift away from DSLRs? And this is because smaller looked cooler, because brands needed something to market. Consumers wanted something new and whatever was next, polished and shiny. But in all that noise, we really did walk away from a platform that was, and really still is, one of the most reliable systems ever made. It's really not nostalgia. I'm not an old man just shaking his fist at the sky. It really is facts. And if you're really into cameras, I feel like you would be a hater to sit there and deny it. DSLRs were really the workhorses, and mirrorless is still trying to figure out how to keep up under this new created pressure. So another thing with many mirrorless cameras that I see is trying to be hybrids, both photo and video machines. And with this comes compromises. Heat builds up a lot, sensors get taxed a lot, processing really starts to bottleneck, whereas DSLRs were made to specialize. A photo machine that just nails photos any day of the week, no drama. And in my opinion, sometimes simpler is stronger. So when it comes down to it, really ask yourself, do you want a camera that looks good on paper, or one that's still going strong 10, 15, 20 years from now? Because the camera that sticks with you, the one that keeps showing up when conditions get rough, when you're on a deadline, or when you just really need it to work, it's probably not always going to be the newest one. So to really start to wrap things up, you don't need to switch systems, you don't need to go backwards, but you do need to ask, do I trust my tools? Am I shooting with gear that's built for the way I work? And am I chasing what's marketed or what's proven? DSLRs are pretty quiet right now, but they never stopped being good. They never stopped being valid, and they never stopped being solidly built. And if you're looking for something you can rely on for the long haul, don't sleep on the gear that already earned that truck. Keep an eye out for it. But anyways, I'm not going to keep yapping. I'm going to cut this one right here. So if you made it this far, I appreciate you for watching. And of course, subscribe if you're into more debate videos like these or just discussion. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I love to know what my fellow photographers and other photography interested people have to say about these types of things. But anyways, appreciate you for watching. Catch you all in the next one. Check out my link in the bio to keep up with everything. And peace.